Before we get into this week's episode 19, with our special guest Mark T. Gledhill, um, a lot of people have asked me about two specific things that I do during episodes. Number one, talking about juggling chainsaws. Number two, the once upon a time. Well, to answer the second question first, once upon a time came from Wesley Willis, the great singer, and that was how we started off every single song that he did. And as for the juggling chainsaws, I don't know. It just seems like a dangerous activity to do, and just seems like something to bring up every time somebody's doing something in the performing industry. I know, scintillating stuff, right? Here we go, the performers I know coming at you. These are the performers I know, I know. These are the performers I know. These are the performers I know, I know. These are performers I know. These are the performers I know, I know. These are the performers I know. These are the performers I know, I know. These are performers I know. All right, here we go, everybody. Welcome to the performers I know. This is episode number 19. Yes, we are almost up to four whole hands. Can you believe that? It's amazing. This week, for only the second time, we have someone from the great country up north of Canada. Yes, a very accomplished individual. He's done voiceover and acting and improv, and he's here now as my guest. Please welcome everyone, Mark Thomas Gledhill. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dane. Happy to be here. And I
Yeah,
must admit, it is an absolutely gorgeous day in my part of Canada for spring. It's in the teens and absolutely beautiful sunny
the
sky.
now you see you say it's in the teens.
The
You
teens
have
in
to,
Celsius.
yes, yeah. I was gonna say you have to kind of realize, because people down here will be like, in the teens. That's freezing, Mark. What's the matter with you?
Yeah, it's 14 degrees Celsius, which
Yes,
what
we down here have to catch up and just go to Celsius, for goodness sake.
would make life a lot easier, but that's
I
neither here nor there.
But yes, once upon a time, several years back, I have to be completely honest with you, Mark. I know that you started off in the chat audience for Mike Riley's MVG live streams, but how did you come across Mike's program?
Oh, geez, it would have been, I think, back when Geek Juice existed, I think.
Ah, yes, with Miss
with
Alexis
Jowski,
Wojcicki.
with
Hmm.
Jowski and a bunch of other things. I think Mike had gotten programming on there, and that's how I that started. I think it's been a long time, so I barely remember now. It's back in the eons of time, long ago.
Yes, lost to the annals of history. But know, we here at MVG Live. I mean, I'm sure I speak for everyone there. We love how the dry sense of humor of Mark, as well as his propensity for doing a lot of stuff about hockey, and he caught up very quickly to professional wrestling as well. I do remember that. It used to be Mark didn't know a wristwatch from a wrist lock, and then he started quoting it and he loving it. So yes. Now Mark, by nature, is not quote unquote a professional in terms of performing, but he has performed before. So, Mark, this question I ask of everybody that is a guest on the show, I guess would be a little bit different for you, but what got you interested in the performing arts, such as doing acting and doing improv?
Uh, well, I guess I have to say that back in elementary school, we used to do Christmas performances or special performances, and with our music teacher, I guess there was something about it, and I got to do roles, mostly background. I did get to be Santa Claus one time
Well, now wait a
in
minute
that.
but you guys live in Canada, so you didn't hooray, hooray, it's Boxing Day. It wasn't like one of those things.
No, it was a school. It was great. It was elementary school performances. I did a few, and one of them was Santa, and I think I might have been a alligator for another one that was a extra with the rest of everyone. And think one time, uh, not long after I had surgery, I got to. They did I think one around the Jewish holiday, and I got to light the menorah in a
No,
Christmas play. So,
because you know, whenever I think Christmas, I think alligators. First thing that comes to my mind.
well, I think that was a spring one. It was quite a while ago, so
Oh,
it's brief memories. This is probably, let's see, 30 years ago. So yeah, because I'm 37. I turned 30. I 36 or 37 now. I can't
you know,
remember.
if you have to think about it, you're too old.
Yes, it's true. Um, so it would have been in the 90s that I did it, and then of course, I've always had a bit of a soft spot for improv because it aired up here in Canada, so I
Hmm.
watched it. I
Well,
watched it, and of course, so there's a lot of famous Canadians, and a lot of the uh, I would watch. The CBC, their Fridays used to be full of scripted and semi-scripted shows like the Red Green Show, and then of
and
course Royal
and of
Canadian
course the
Air
kids in the
Farce.
hall. Come on now.
Of course, Kids in the Hall. Of course, I'm crushing you. I'm crushing you. And of course, the big one that I watched religiously was Royal Canadian Air Farce, which was kind of part improv, part scripted, uh, which was on every Friday, and they would lampoon events happening in Canada, around the world. From It used to be a radio, but I didn't see it on radio. They started doing TV in about 1994, and I went to about 2014 as a TV show, about 20 years. And they had all kinds of really fun, and that kind of, always piqued my interest. And I did drama class in high school as well.
Oh, see, I didn't know that about you. You holding out on me.
Oh, well, it never really
Talking
came up.
about playing an alligator and doing drama in high school. Like this is information that I never knew, but I guess it's great to hear about it here on my own show. And of course, as we are all well aware, um, what can we possibly say without talking about the patron saint of Canadian improv, Colin Mockery?
Hmm. Oh
Uh,
yes, legendary, legendary, legendary. He's good in. He even would occasionally show up on other Canadian shows like Corner Gas. I think he might have even done an episode of Royal Canadian Air Force, and he would appear on it and just kill it. I think. And then, of course, he was also on the Red Green Show as well, where he showed up as I think he owned a hot dog. He had owned a hot dog stand or something, and they let him do all kind of wiener jokes.
Wiener jokes. So, the first major show that Mark did with my group was the Guardian, where he got to play the fancy pants lawyer named Mr. Selnick. And Mark is a very educated and cultured man. as those of you who are longtime fans of MVG Live and the Mental Cast will no doubt know. So this was right up his alley, I would suspect. What was it like to get to play a hotshot fancy pants lawyer?
Oh, that was very fun because if I remember correctly, the dialogue, uh, the 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 dialogue, the character is very serious in a somewhat non-serious play. So he's like incredibly serious as a lawyer type. So that was very fun to be able to, kind of sigh and roll your eyes and kind of go, what is with this people I'm around? And so that was, I think, that's how I kind of played it because, the lawyer is very much kind of a straight man to kind of the craziness of the uncles that are going on
That's
around
so
her.
a lot of the young sun heroes, I really think, in ensemble comedies such as The Guardian Game, are the people who are just like Mark, who can play straight men or straight women and totally just nail characters that are just, if it's like Jim from The Office, you just look at the camera like, like, can you believe what I'm dealing with right now? So Mark parlayed that wonderful, wacky stuff into doing Ichabod's Ghost, where he
Mm.
played the father, Mr. Katrina's father. I'm having a brain fart. I can't believe, I mean, I wrote the darn script. How do I
Well,
not remember?
a lot of the time they also don't necessarily always give him a name either in the extended literature beyond from the original story and the other things. It's just like her father or the elder of the house and things like that. So I don't blame you for forgetting too, because I can't
Mr. Van
remember the
Tassel. Mr. Van Tassel. There we go.
right. There
I
we
knew
go.
I, I knew I'd get it eventually. And you are, as for those of you who don't know what Mark looks like, he has a big old bushy beard, very looking like a 19th century philosopher or a very young Santa Claus. And as we all know, Mark played Santa Claus on the show once, so he was nearly halfway there. So yes, he was able to play the father type very well. Now, was that something that you had to kind of think about a little bit because you don't have any children that I know of.
I
And
don't.
okay, so it's like but of course, then again, that is what acting is all about. It's just like, well, yeah, I may not have children, I may not be a father, but I can play a father. So, what was it like getting to play Katrina's papa?
It was fun, though. To be fair, I think it's also drawing on experiences of fan groups and other groups I've been in where I've been the one in charge. So even though I'm young, I'm kind of the father figure of the group, pulling everything together. Uh, I can channel a little bit of that, and of course, uh, I finished my master's last year, and I was kind of the father figure for some of the students for helping them out as well. Kind of that in between the professors and the students for the role I had. And
Now,
so even though
respect.
that was after, of course, after it, but I've done similar things in the past, so that's kind of helped me to have that you know, have that position of authority, but also be kind of, gentle, willing to listen, and the other things that, for the most
Mhm.
part, it's been a few years since that one, but I seem to remember the father was, for the most part, fairly level-headed and, somewhat kind compared to, some
No,
of the
you
other
you
cast.
were you were ready to kill my character. But you were, in to be fair, you were protecting three young ladies. So, you meant well,
Yes.
but you were ready to shoot me, which is like, I'm a little hurt by that you would point a pistol at me. Well, virtually anyway.
Well, and to
But
be fair, the character, they other people around him weren't exactly telling the complete truth of the entire situation going on. So
That's
Mr. Van
true.
Tassel was only going on only part of the information that he was given, and so that when you're only getting half the information, dangerous things can happen, and that's an example of it right there.
Now, refresh my memory because it has admittedly been a while since last spoke. But what your graduate degree? What was that in again?
Community/urban planning.
And what does that entail?
Well, that's a lot of things. It can be a lot of things. It's a very wide field. So a lot of it, you've had city planners is an example of one. In my case, I'm trying to work on being a person involved in neurodiversity planning, which
Hmm.
looks at things like autism and dyslexia and how we can improve how our cities and how municipalities like New York, where you live, even the borough of Staten Island, all kinds of things can do better work to improve people who have autism, ADHD, neurodiversity, and that sort of thing. I wrote my master's thesis on autism and dyslexia, and it's just trying to get out there and understand how we can make our spaces better for individuals with these conditions. And it's a lot harder compared to physical disabilities because you can't just build, say, a wheelchair ramp and then a certain wheelchair size can go through it, uh, or that thing. There's a wide spectrum of people who have neurodiversity, and so it's a little harder to create for. But for the autism, it's like being aware of sound, certain paint colors. There's like six paint colors that you can use that are actually uh, soothing to people with autism. For dyslexia, there's certain fonts that you can use, certain color overlays you can use, that sort of thing, and sort of that it sort of what I'm now trying to go into is looking at municipalities and saying, well, you guys are doing physical disabilities well, but your invisible disabilities like autism and dyslexia, if you did stuff like this, your residents would be even better as a result of it. And that's kind of the next step I'm trying to figure out is how to take what I now know and take it to municipalities, which or
You know,
cities.
it does actually tie in, I would think, to public speaking and preparation and going in front of an audience to speak on these kind of topics. A lot of performers that I know excel at public speaking because they're so used to being in front of an audience that it's just like, oh yeah, give a speech about neurodiversity. I can do that. So I guess in a way that kind of helped in your quest to do these kind of things. Yeah.
Yes, I definitely think being able to do the improv, thinking on your feet if somebody asks you a question or you're reacting to a situation definitely helps with that. And then part of it is combining it with knowing the research, or if you look at it from a theater perspective, knowing your part enough where you can go out and say what you need to say, maybe not quite off by heart, but near enough where you can do a really good job. And so I think they definitely um, are complementary to each other. And of course, at the time we're recording this, I'll actually be giving a presentation on in a few days' time on neurodiversity, and I gave one in February as well, and I think another one in November. So I do up a PowerPoint and.
To give everybody a kind of a peek behind the curtain. It is March 18th as we record this. By
Mhm.
the time this airs, it would probably be around May. Yes. So we're 2 months in the future now. But where are you giving this next speech that you're doing?
Well, one of the neat things is that my master's program, part of it is that I did my master's with. Part of it is they're continuing to try and bring in people to talk about subjects and other things. So I'm actually going and talking to current students of the program I graduated for, being able to highlight some of the research I've been doing, lived experiences as a individual with autism, uh, and where I see the future of where we can take things. Because I wrote a, I don't know, 176-page master's thesis, and where I talk a little bit about myself, my disabilities, what the research that I did for it, made up recommendations and a conclusion and all that. So it's a chance to continue to talk about stuff that I'm working on and continuing to work on, because I do plan to go even further with my education and try and do a PhD eventually as well.
170 something page dissertation. I can't even count that high.
Yes, well, it was a labor of love, and
Well,
there's some
absolutely. I
days
can't even
it's
imagine.
and of course it is freely available to I have put it up, so it is actually freely available to view if you're interested in reading it. It's not quite theater per se, but it does have implications for theater, especially around the understanding of lighting, sound, and that sort of thing. And a couple of the sources I actually looked at theater venues or entertainment things for kids and programs that they bid for children to make it where they could enjoy events while dealing with the noise and the lighting and becoming overwhelmed as an autistic individual. So there were some people who did their PhD and masters on it
The
actually.
well, what's great about Broadway right now is that, and even some select community theaters here in Staten Island and the New York area, they do sensory friendly
Hmm.
performances of shows. No bombastic lighting. The sound is very subdued. Shows that are special effects heavy, trim it down. And I think that is a wonderful thing that they assist the communities like that to make it accessible to everybody without any kind of complications. So for that I applaud the Broadway community. But Mark, you mentioned improv, which
Hmm.
leads me to my next little question. Um, Mike Riley, who was in episode number uno, he had You Can't Be Serious, and you were a semi-regular on the show. He had you thinking on your toes, and it's making me think of the one moment that everybody always laughs at. Shoot him! Shoot him! He's a minority and he must be shot. See,
Oh, jeez.
you know, out of context, that sounds horrible. But
Yes.
I mean, we Mark is gentle as a lamb. He would never shoot anybody that I know of. So
With Nerf guns, maybe, since I have a large collection of them, but that's all.
yes, the it was so. Was it completely kind of a difficult thing to kind of think on your toes, or was it more the fact that it came natural because of the your experience with public speaking?
Uh, I would say early on it didn't come quite as natural, but then it became natural because I branched out, because eventually I started doing stuff with my fan associations I belonged to, where I would go out to conventions and be in front of people talking things and dealing with them. So you get that experience of having to think up new ways and do other things that help. So eventually that would help with later iterations of doing the improv. And early on, I think it's just, you know, being, I think part of it is being comfortable with the people that you you interact with helps with improv as well, so that you can you've talked to them, you've worked with them, done things, and that lets you kind of you have that rapport already, so you kind of have an idea of how they think and what they might do. So that kind of allows it's still improv, but you can have that little more bouncing off each other, and you kind of get where they're coming from, so that it's a little easier to do.
I've often thought that as well, where you look at it in the sense of like me and Mike Riley, we've known each other now for God, almost half of our lives, and it that sort of thing comes very natural, working off of him,
Hmm.
bouncing jokes and ideas off of him. I mean, I've worked with some people who I've never met before, and it's fine, but there's just that something about working with partner for so long that you can almost finish each other's sandwiches. It's kind of like Colin Mockery and Ryan Stiles and Whose Line Is It Anyway? They've done that show together for 1,000 years, so they are always very funny, and it's because I guess they know each other so well. Like they kind of sync themselves up a little bit.
Including the original British version.
That's right. So Mark has this innate ability to just play the ultimate straight man, as we mentioned earlier. We did a scene showcase. It was scene showcase 5. Yes, it was called The Visitor at the Door. It was me and Adam Warren Coleman. And Mark played a door-to-door Jehovah's Witness person trying to get a new convert, and just the absolute utter wackiness that happened in it. And Mark just takes it all in stride, and he has that great slow burn. With it. So, would you ever consider trying to play something a bit more wackier, or do you prefer the kind of slow burn straight man kind of?
That's a good question. I haven't, I really haven't. Most of the cases, I'm just exciting something. I know, especially for you, it's like, well, I have this idea for you, so I haven't really had the freedom to do that. So I don't know. It'd certainly be fun to try.
Well,
Uh,
next time I have a role where somebody's completely wacky and they're juggling flaming chainsaws and they're spouting gibberish, I will message you and I'll be like, Mark, I have something that I want you to do, and we will get to that. You can hear me applauding this initiative. Yes.
yeah, well, I think it could be fun, especially bringing in, some of the craziness. I think I could do it. I am a little eccentric in real life anyway, so
Well,
just channel some of that, and
I mean,
it'd be fun.
a lot of people. What do you think? Mark is just like Sam Eagle on the Muppets, like you're all a bunch of weirdos. Watching all the hilarity going on around him. I don't know. I kind of think deep down, Mark is like Robin Williams. Like he can just give him a character and he can tear right into it. Yes, that is absolutely wild. Well, I can see by the old clock on the wall that we are starting to run a little bit out of time. This has been a fantastic episode. But Mark, my dear friend, my last question for you, as I ask all of my guests, if somebody were to come up to you and say, "Hey, Mark, I want to break into show business. I want to do acting. I want to do improv. I want to even do public speaking," what would be the piece of advice that you would give them in order for them to best succeed?
I'd say go for it. Like for me, compared to others that you've done, I admit I'm an amateur. Uh, so I would say, maybe go to try out community community theater, or if you're kind of more of a joker, there's still places that do open mics for where you're literally go up to the stage and do jokes. I've never quite had the nerve to do that, but that might be something, a way to build it. There's also public speaking classes you can take to do it. For me, I've actually found a really good way if you want to kind of do it in a stealth way without even realizing it is join uh, like some fan groups like what I belong to, where we go and set up a table at a convention, and we people come up to us and we talk about what's so great about our costumes and the fan group and we belong to. And you're doing public speaking right there. You don't even really realize it because you're chatting and having fun, uh, uh, being passionate about one of your subjects you're interested in. And for me, uh, that's led to a lot of neat things and going to various conventions. I mean, uh, I even, was confident enough to be able to go. And last year at a convention, I was in a uniform and waiting in line, and Jonathan Frakes complimented my uniform, and I had a lot of fun with that. And even though that's not quite improv, having to deal with somebody that famous coming up and telling you, complimenting your uniform, you kind of have to improv. That's kind of improv response right there of that, and still a highlight of the last year for me. And that includes graduating and finishing my master's thesis. So, and going to Disneyland and seeing that for the first time. So, uh, I think that's one thing you can do.
Hey, Mr. Frakes, I loved you in Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction.
Well,
He,
he was really awesome. My friend got a picture with him, so I have a really nice picture of me in my Stargate uniform, Jonathan Frakes in the middle, and then my friend in his uniform from our fan association. And it was really fun. And
no, well,
and of
now
course,
hang on a second. That you said Stargate uniform?
yes.
I'm sure Jonathan Frakes is sitting there like, I did Star Trek, not Stargate. What the fuck?
Well, I think he may have directed an episode, and there has been Star Trek alumnus. No, I was wearing the Stargate uniform because it was my first convention to be able to wear it, and I got about 6 or 7 people ask for pictures from me, and I've worn my other uniforms, and I've had no interest at all. I had tons of people come up to me and ask for pictures, and I had a fairly screen accurate uniform for everything. And it was incredible. It's incredibly comfortable. And so, uh, it'd be fun to do improv just using some of my cosplays that I have now because I have like 6 to 7 of them now.
Indubitably. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as our outro takes us out, I want to thank my very special guest, Mark Gledhill. Thank you very much for coming, Mark. These are the
Thank you for
performers
having
I
me.
know. And I will see you all on the next episode. Goodbye. These are the performers I know, I know. These are the performers I know. These are the performers I know, I know. These are performers I know.